also welcome back to Jam Crypto. Whichever platform you're watching on, I hope you guys are having a fantastic day. As for Bitcoin, we are having I would say a nice rally since last week, because last week we dropped to 98K, and that was really scary time. People were saying that the 4-year cycle is being so intact. Right now, we are bouncing back up compared to yesterday, because as you know, we're doing the show Monday to Friday every single day, and compared to yesterday's price action, not much has changed, because Bitcoin is just like bouncing below the trend line, so the downtrend since the all-time high of 126K. So very much the narrative of a bear market is still on the table. Looks like Bitcoin is just kicking the can down the road, because we didn't have the confirmation last week, because as I was looking at the charts every single day, I noticed that Bitcoin, whenever they have a weekly candle close below the 50-week moving average, we have the confirmation that, well, maybe a couple close, maybe 2 closes below the 50-week. We know that this is the confirmation of a bear market. But what we experienced over the weekend is that we are basically delaying that confirmation by a week or two, which is it's good to see Bitcoin bouncing back up, but we don't have certainty in the market. And what we notice is that there are some signals from the TA perspective, because we love using data instead of just like using some narratives, and some people like to call it some BS to basically give up the reason why Bitcoin will still pump. I would say there's so much emotion, but what I like to do is just looking at the pure data, pure numbers. So using some reasoning behind, instead of just okay, there are macro tailwinds, there are some narratives, so we are not entering the bear market. So I don't like to sugarcoat anything. I do see some signs that maybe it's a good time to take a little bit of profit off the table. Not for certain, as I mentioned, we don't have the confirmation that this is the bear market. On-chain wise, none of the major on-chain indicators are flashing. So that means on-chain is suggesting there is still some best time ahead of us. We still haven't seen the cycle top yet. And in terms of macro, of course, we're going to dive into the news. We know shutdown is going to come to an end, possibly this week, in the coming days. So that's a good news, because the liquidity is going to unlock into the market again. Well, we're going to dive into how the macro scene is working, especially in the US. And another good news that I've seen compared to over the past day is that Coinbase is now bringing ICO back. What's the deal with it? Comment in the live chat if any of you guys were from the ICO era, because, well, I would say it's some good time. It was a lot of fun. Well, I wasn't participating in the ICO era, because I was still young and too dumb to notice this future of finance. But the ICO era, from what I heard, is that there's a lot of fun and a lot of money could be made, and a lot of mania back in the days. So is Coinbase literally gonna bring this back to the days right now, to nowadays? So we're gonna look at the news, what's going on. But without further ado, let's actually dive into the daily chart of Bitcoin, because as I mentioned, Bitcoin is still trading well below this downward movement. So this downward trend, and we have been building this downtrend since 126K. So what I noticed, and what I don't want to see from Bitcoin, is that if we keep getting rejected at this level, I hate to break it to you guys, this is essentially just a dead cat bounce. And we are just kicking the can off the table, kicking the can down the road, and maybe we get rejected at 109 or 108K, and then we go below. So until Bitcoin actually close above this downtrend, I would say we're not out of the wood yet. despite we had this nice little pump and we closed above the 50-week moving average. So one region I'm eyeing very closely, let's zoom out a little bit more. So one region I'm eyeing very closely is actually between 97K to 98K. So if we lose this region, let's go ahead and stretch that out a little bit. If we lose 97K, so this is a critical support. I would say this is the last support we have. If we lose that, is another 365 days of downward movement, of bearish momentum ahead of us. So it's good that we're still hanging above that. Let's see how that plays out. But if we lose 97K, yeah, I mean, that's it. It's going to be another really boring and prolonged bear market yet again. Why I drew this region, so 97 to 98K, is because like here we have like resistance that was back in April 2025. Prior resistance is going to be our support right now. And 97K and 98K is also the mid-range that was back in November 2024 all the way to February 2025. So this is again why this region I'm watching so closely. If we drop below, so if we lose this, again, we have this like descending triangle, a little bit descending. Well, not really descending, but like I would say there's like channel forming here. Okay, channel is the word rather than descending triangle. So we have this like channel forming. If we lose 97K, then we know that we're entering a bear market. And if you guys catch our yesterday's show, you know I was talking about the midterm year. So let's also hop back to the higher time frame. So we are on the weekly. And one thing I keep talking about is the 4-year cycle, because based on the 4-year cycle, we know that maybe, perhaps, because we only know this in hindsight, right? So perhaps 6th of October was already the cycle top. And one thing about the halving cycle for Bitcoin is that it's magically aligned with the midterm year. So from this chart, I circle out, I drew out the midterm year, and we have the midterm year here is like 2014, and then we have 2018 and 2022. And 2026 is going to be the midterm year. So funny enough, because whenever we have the halving cycle, like we know 2026 is the halving cycle bear market, and midterm year tends to be the worst year, like in terms of this like 4-year cycle, because the midterm election happens every 4 years. And if you guys are not from the US, like midterm elections, basically when the current president has been in the position for 2 years and then they have to go on a rally again. So that's what we call the midterm year. And usually during midterm year, because there's so much uncertainty in the market, and markets don't like uncertainty. During midterm year, the current president would try so hard to basically be in place and trying to win over people. We know that Donald Trump is in place. He is fighting for Republican, but we know during midterm year, Democrats are going to fight really hard. So that creates so much uncertainty in the market. Usually when that happens, like it also aligns with the 4-year halving cycle in Bitcoin. So 2026 is another reason why I do think the bear market going to occur despite all the macro tailwind. So I know that a bunch of people think that Bitcoin's getting so big as a macro asset already. So the halving cycle is no longer intact, but like we also have to bear in mind the midterm cycle is very much aligned with the 4-year cycle. So maybe it's going to get less relevant because at the end of the day, the halving reward is going to get cut in half every roughly 4 years. So I do think the impact is getting smaller, But if you ask my personal take, is 2026 gonna be like for the 4-year cycle to be completely irrelevant and we could throw it out of the window? Of course, I have my doubt because I like to look at data, I like to look at numbers, and at the moment, it's not really reflecting on my chart right now. It looks like the 4-year cycle is still doing its thing from what I've seen right now, okay? So we know that there are like this past, basically ever since the weekend, we have good news because we know shutdown going to come to an end very soon, probably this week, because that's what poly market is suggesting. So that's good for the market and liquidity is unlocking. We know that QT is going to come to an end as well. So shutdown coming to end, QT coming to end, we know rates going to go lower. And also if we hop onto the DXY chart, we know DXY and Bitcoin, they have a negative correlation. So the correlation is about minus 0.7. That means if DXY goes up, Bitcoin would go down and vice versa. DXY is kind of finding resistance at $100. That means it's kind of giving some breathing room for Bitcoin. And this also aligns with why Bitcoin is bouncing back up and maybe find some resistance at this like downward trend. All right, so this is the short-term relief we are getting, but I'm not seeing clear signs that we are completely out of the wood. Like for that to happen, I really need to see Bitcoin get out of this downward trend that we've been building for more than a month, basically. All right, so this is the daily candle for Bitcoin. Let's also hop onto the weekly candle. So we're slowly building up the time frame. So the weekly candle, as I mentioned, I need to see Bitcoin get above this downward trend and actually close above that. I need to see a weekly candle closing above this downward movement. Otherwise, I'm not getting bullish anytime soon. So this is one sign I need to see. Another sign is that, okay, let's also pull up the bull market support band. We know over the weekend, we closed above this. Let me remove the triangle because it's really annoying. So, all right, so over the weekend, we closed above this blue line. And this blue line is, of course, the 50-week moving average. So we closed above that. That's good. But that's not enough for me to be, okay, we're out of the wood, we're heading to higher places. There's a new all-time high ahead of us. I'm not seeing that, I'm afraid to break it to you, like at least for now. Okay, so for me to be bullish, for sure, to have confirmation, I need to see two signs. First is that we need to break above this downward trend, this downtrend. Maybe we'll find some rejection, some resistance, and we get rejected at 108 or 109K. That will signal to me is a dead cat bounce. So one thing, I need to see Bitcoin get above this downtrend. And the second thing, pay attention to the bull market support band. So this like sort of like a cloud. Like I like to call it a cloud, even though the proper name is bull market support band. So I need to see Bitcoin get above or maybe trade inside this bull market support band and use it as support, because right now we're using it as resistance, which is, again, not nice. And another sign that I know that we are at the latest stage of the bull run, I hate to break it to you guys, well, let me close the all the indicators and just like focus on the RSI for now, all right? So RSI, we know that we have been building up this bearish divergence for months to come. So ever since March 2024 till now, we are forming this like bearish divergence. Okay, again, this will take like weeks to actually play out or months to actually play out, but this is a sign that I know we are definitely not early in the bull market. I'm sure I'm not crazy to say that, right? All right, so this is on as for the weekly chart. Today I actually want to pull up the 2 week chart, because I usually just like look at a weekly, but like today I want to pull up the 2 week chart because one thing I noticed and is a little bit concerning is, again, let's pull up the RSI. On the weekly, 2 week candles of BTC, in terms of the RSI, we are seeing this uptrend. So we've been building that up ever since July 2023. So we have been building this uptrend for more than 2 years. And a really bearish sign that I noticed is that until recently, until last week, or 2 weeks ago, actually. So until 2 weeks ago, we dropped below this upward support on the RSI, which is not a good sign for BTC, because last time that happened, let's go ahead and zoom out a little bit, because last time when that happened, again, it's very similar. And that's what makes Bitcoin so easy to trade and is my favorite asset to trade, actually, because it's so predictable. And last time that happened on a 2 week candle of BTC, that was back in December 2018. And we have been building up this uptrend on RSI for 2 years, and it lasted till December 2021. So we have this uptrend on the RSI. And when we broke below this uptrend, we know the bear market occurred, because like, look at here, we broke the RSI, and then that's when we enter the cycle bottom. So we drop from like, take it like a 50K, and then we drop to like 15K, 50 to 15K. So that is the magic of TA. So right now I'm seeing the sign that we are on the edge. So like if we actually breaking down, then yeah, that is quite worrisome. Like on the 2 week chart, this is what I see on the TA perspective alone. Like we're gonna hop onto on-chain a little bit, and you guys can draw to conclusion whichever you want to believe. But like I am seeing some bullishness. Like, of course, at the end of the day, we are still above the 50-week moving average. So that is something good, not like completely bearish, but I still need to see Bitcoin giving me more bullish signals, because at the moment, I'm not seeing that on the chart. All right, so I know it has been quite disappointing for this cycle, like the because people have been calling for an alt season for basically since 2023. And I know a lot of viewers on Jam Crypto, I'm actually looking at the live chat right now. So I know a lot of my viewers, you guys are very into altcoins, but like I hate to break it to you, like this cycle, what we've learned from this cycle is that Bitcoin has been sucking those liquidity from altcoins. And we know that Bitcoin dominance has been rising. If we hop onto the Toto 3 divided by BTC, Toto 3 is of course the total crypto market cap. Take out BTC, take out ETH, and then we divide that by BTC. And ever since, well, here, so November 2022, altcoins have been bleeding for years, actually, for 3 years. So this is not the cycle we have been promised. And this cycle, I would say, like, I would agree, it was super weird. Like during 2022, I kind of forgot what I was doing, but like, it was so boring. And I hate a prolonged bear market for sure. And like 2021, I traded so much altcoin. So I'm completely with you guys. But ever since 2023, I've actually switched my focus to macro assets. So like, I wouldn't say altcoins, but maybe to the TradFi world, because I feel like, okay, if I'm not making money from altcoins, I might as well just be more open-minded and open my vision. Because my background, I didn't come from a TradFi background, so I didn't have a finance training, I came straight to crypto. So I came straight to all the degen stuff. I was minting NFT at 3 a.m. and I was trading all these like GameFi tokens back in the previous cycle. So I really understand the altcoin mania. But until like after experience 2022, the prolonged bear market, well, I noticed that if I want to keep making money, like there are opportunities out there. I just need to open my mind. So there was opportunities and there were some, well, so-called off season, but the off season happened in stock markets. So, well, if you take a look at this chart, we have the top, well, let us actually zoom to, okay, 2022, because that was the prolonged bear market. And yeah, it was a very painful and very, very boring period for the entire year. So if we look at the return ever since 2020, okay, maybe late 2021, all right? So we are essentially comparing NVIDIA, Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Solana. So we can see that NVIDIA is actually at the top. Because why I want to bring this up is because I have been seeing all these influencers who are maybe they're a little bit emotional, they are longing for an odd season. I mean, I was longing for an odd season as well, but like one thing I don't like about these crypto influencers are, okay, they have been shilling altcoins since 2022, they have been streaming for an odd season since 2023. And one thing I don't like about them is that how they benefit so much from the alt season, from the altcoins mania, and right now they are suffering the pain, and yet they still call for an alt season for years, basically since 2023. And one thing, because like this is a basically I was doing my research and I saw a crypto YouTuber who has like almost 1 million subscribers. And he was talking about, okay, there is an alt season. And basically, he has been saying that for 2 years. And when he was looking at Bitcoin dominance, it was like, okay, Bitcoin dominance dropped a little bit from 60%. And then he was so bullish and basically sharing the portfolio or the coins that he was about to scoop up. But and then when we actually hop onto the Toto 3 market cap, we know that altcoins have been bleeding and we kind of like topped. Okay, maybe we topped again. So it's like a triple top, something like that. So we topped since November 2022 and altcoins have been bleeding against Bitcoin. And when we challenge influencers like that, his response was like, okay, that's because you're comparing that to Bitcoin. Like if you compare that to USD value, you will see your money goes up for altcoins. And not gonna lie, I just feel like that statement is one of the stupidest, like really stupid statement I've ever heard in my entire life. Okay, like if you think altcoins are rising in value against USD, but for BTC is losing value, you might as well just put your money in BTC. Like, why would you spend hours and hours trying to find that so-called one gem out of millions of altcoins? Like, if you know that at the end of the day, like long-term wise, Bitcoin is still going to do well. So, like, that is a really stupid statement I saw. And I honestly I couldn't wrap my head around like why there are so many crypto influencers with like close to 1 million subscribers or more. Some of them are saying stupid thing like that. So it really blew my mind. I like to look at data. Toto 3 divided by BTC, it has been dropping. So odds are not doing well. And in terms of stocks, like stocks are doing basically all the gain went to stock markets instead of alt season. So I'm not trying to attack because I know a lot of viewers they still hold a lot of altcoins, myself included. But like what I'm saying is that maybe we could be a little bit more open-minded if we are here to make money. Because if you're trading, the markets don't care about your emotion. The markets are really brutal. And right now, we see the gains. Okay, basically ever since 2023, we see most of the gains are from the TradFi market, from the stocks market, instead of altcoins. So maybe it's okay to be open-minded a little bit. I know crypto folks they are very they feel really connected to the whole narratives. Okay, maybe like they like to spend hours and hours just to find an altcoin, or maybe they like to trade meme coins, basically picking pennies in front of a train. But like for myself, and ever since I've experienced 2022, I much rather to put into I know the asset's going to do well in the long term, because basically I've been talking about Tesla, I've been talking about Coinbase ever since 2023, and both of them they are doing extraordinarily well. So if we hop back into the chart, so we're comparing Nvidia. Nvidia is of course sitting at the top, even more generate more return than BTC, and of course compared to uh, Ethereum and Solana. All right. And okay, if we also pull out, maybe because I was talking about Tesla, so maybe it's a good time to compare Tesla as well. So TSLA, and I've been shilling Tesla for a basically for since 2023. So it depends on the time frame you look at. If we zoom out to mid 2024 last year till now, Tesla is actually generating the most gains. Is sitting at the top, so 143%, even more than Bitcoin. So this is Tesla. And then, of course, we have other like Coinbase as well. Another stock that I like really much and I added to my portfolio. Well, actually, that maybe too much. Okay, another stock that I really like is MP Material. So this is okay, MP Material is sitting at the top because MP is a rare earth company and basically is a monopoly, and they have a contract with the US government. So I'm actually very long term in MP materials. So point being, like there are always opportunities in the market. You just have to open your eye, like look around. Maybe it's not in the alt markets, altcoins, but like there are always opportunity in the market. So MP material and Tesla, I'm a long-term bull for Tesla. Like as we are moving, I would say, okay, as we are moving till the end of bull market, I think it makes sense to take a little profit off the table. So, which I have been doing, maybe just like 10%, just to be safe, because like again, I have my emotion because I'm human as well, but like we can't ignore the fact because like the 4-year cycle, all the data is still playing out. So I need to play safe. I need to protect myself. I need to take a little bit of profit off the table. And I need to look at other areas other than crypto or these like small altcoins. I know people like to argue, okay, Jamie, you are not correct because like there was a kind of short-lived alt season. There's like a meme coin season as well, but it was short-lived. So some of my friends actually they did like a 10x last month during the downturn as well. But like when I look at them, they were actually spending hours and hours trying to find that so-called one gem. They have been putting money from like they've been basically really diversified. And what I saw in them, they are kind of like wearing themselves too thin. Whereas for my own approach right now, like after being through cycles, after being through bear market, I'll much rather to pick the winning asset. For example, Bitcoin. Like Bitcoin long term, again, is going to be okay. Especially if we have a bear market, we know it's going to return to 200-week moving average. And when that happens, like it's the best time to ape in ever. Like if I see Bitcoin get down to 200-week moving average, I'm going to sell everything I own and ape into Bitcoin. So that's why like TA is actually offering so much perspective and so much guidance when to enter the market. So I much rather pick the winning asset. So here, MP material, I'm seeing another huge opportunity. Like this is going to be very volatile because this is the political card between the US and China. So even MP material, because like yesterday I was trading it, I entered at like $58. And then today I checked, it was like $64. So like not much had changed compared to basically 24 hours ago. But like long-term wise, this thing going to be very volatile. But I still see huge potential in MP material because whenever there's like rising tension between US and China, we know MP material gonna do well. And US government do guarantee that if the stock price fell too much, they're gonna scoop up all the stocks for MP materials. So that's why I like it. Anyways, it's not financial advice. And I know this show, I kind of focus more on the TradFi side of things, basically all the traditional assets. But I'm genuinely sharing what I'm seeing on, like using data on the charts. What is the best performing asset so far? Like even like MP material is actually trading above Nvidia. So that's how crazy this thing is. All right, so this is for the TA. I know I haven't talked much about Bitcoin yet. So what I'm going to do is we're going to take a little break because that is a lot of information and a lot of data. After that break, we're going to look into the on-chain, where Bitcoin is heading to, because on-chain kind of suggests different perspective compared to TA. So after that little break, we're going to dive into the on-chain and see you guys in 3 minutes.
Security matters. Xapo Bank, the only way to bank your Bitcoin. Apply now at xapobank.com.
So, tell us about your furry friend here. What's his name?
Oh, this? This is Bitcoin.
Bitcoin?
It's not just a cat, he's family.
Quite a name, and I must say, looks quite pampered.
Oh, absolutely. Bitcoin deserves nothing but the best. He's my little prince.
But with such a valuable pet, aren't you afraid of losing him?
Losing Bitcoin? No, it never happened before, so it's not something I worry about. Excuse me for a moment. Bitcoin, stay here, right?
Bitcoin, no! Bitcoin, come on, little buddy, Bitcoin, I need you. Don't go.
All right, guys, welcome back. As I promised you before we hit that little break, we're going to do some on-chain analysis right now because it's kind of suggesting a very different direction that Bitcoin is heading to. Let's just put it that way. So the first indicator I'm bringing to you guys is a short-term holder MV/LV Bollinger Bands. So this actually makes two ideas together. So it's the value and also volatility. It looks at how much profit or loss short-term Bitcoin holders, well, short-term being they have been holding Bitcoin for less than 155 days, and add that Bollinger Bands to see if things are getting too hot or too cold. If you don't know what the Bollinger Band is, it's basically this band here, like sort of like a cloud, right? So when the line moves near the top band, we actually have another image is like zooming closer. So this is the band. So when a line moves near the top band, that means short-term holders have big unrealized profits. The market might be overheated and due for a cool down. Vice versa, if it falls near the bottom band, it shows capitulation. Like recent buyers are losing money and the market may be undervalued or oversold. So this tool essentially help us spot emotion, like emotional extremes, moments when short-term traders are getting too greedy or too fearful. So what it means right now, well, actually, let us go back to the second image so we have a bigger picture. So Bitcoin has been in the oversold. That means this green line or cool off line, so the blue line, since the big drop in early October, right now the price is starting to climb out of that bottom zone and heading back toward the cool off area, which is sitting around 109K. That's the key resistance level we're watching. If Bitcoin can break above that and keep momentum, the next stop could be the heated, so the orange line, which is sitting roughly at around $125,000. In short, short-term traders are slowly recovering from fear, but the market isn't overheated yet. It's still in the rebuilding phase. Okay, this is the first indicator. The second one we're looking at is of course, the funding rates. That is the classic one, right? So funding rates are the small fees paid between traders and Bitcoin's perpetual future market to keep prices in line with the real spot price. So when the funding rates are positive, traders betting on higher prices. So there are more longs than short in the market. Vice versa, if funding rates are negative, short sellers are in control and prices can quickly rise if they get squeezed out of their position. In simple words, funding rates tell us which side of the market, like bulls or bears, are overcrowded and when the market might flip the other way. And what's happening right now, the funding rates have been rising to the top of this descending range, then turning lower. The same pattern we have seen in the last two local tops correction. So we zoom closer. Like there are two instances in this cycle as well here. So this could hint that the market needs another short-term correction or flush out before the next move up. If this trend keeps going, Bitcoin may not have reached its short-term bottom yet, but it's likely getting close to forming one. Past cycles show that neutral or slightly negative funding rate often marks the start of the next push on new highs. In short, funding rates are cooling off, traders are rebalancing, and a setup could be building for the next big move. Like if we actually use this and apply to TA, maybe this actually is making sense because like as I mentioned, the daily we are still below the downtrend. I haven't seen actually a push up and we fight against that resistance yet. So maybe this is aligned with my TA as well. Okay, the third indicator we're looking at is the percentage supply in profit. What this means, so it tells us how many Bitcoins are currently worth more than what they were bought for. If a coin last moved on-chain at a lower price than today, it's counted as being in profit. This helps us see the overall mood of the market. So how many traders are feeling confident versus those sitting at a loss? When the most coins are in profit, it signals euphoria. So everyone feels rich and the top could be near. When fewer coins are in profit, it means like fear and pain, which often comes near bottoms when strong buyers quietly step in. In short, this chart shows us like whether the market is overheated, cooling off, or resetting for the next move. So recently, the percent supply in profit dropped to 71%, which is close to the level seen during the last two local bottoms. So we have the blue circles here. So we experienced that in September 2024, and then we experienced that in April 2025 as well. This means the market has likely gone through the strong reset and maybe forming another local bottom. While short-term charts like the funding rates and net realized profit and loss hint at one more possible dip, these broader on-chain data suggest that bull market is still alive. Bear market calls remain premature. Bitcoin's recent bounce after dipping below 100K shows that we are more likely in a bullish correction phase rather than the start of a full bear market. Let me know what you think about that, because like at the end of the day, a 21% correction in a bull market is just extremely normal. And as I mentioned, there is tailwind coming, so that couldn't be ignored. Like one instance, like talk about that in the beginning of the show, is that we are having the shutdown coming to an end very, very soon. So the US may be finally having an end. Basically, this like this drama. This is like so ridiculous, and it's very exclusive to the US. So this is the historic longest government shutdown in the entire US history. So 41-day government shutdown. Over the weekend, the US Senate took its first major procedural step, voting 60 to 40 to advance a short-term funding bill. That vote was a bipartisan breakthrough. So 8 Democrats joined Republicans to move that bill forward. It's called a continuing resolution, basically a temporary fix that reopens the government while long-term budget talks continue. Now the bill heads to the House of Representatives. If it passes there, it will go to Donald Trump's desk. Of course, he will have to sign it, and then the government will reopen, possibly within days. But maybe we should take a step back on how the whole US systems work, because it has been a long time. And now that the Senate has voted to reopen, why we haven't actually reopened yet? Because I know a lot of viewers on this channel, they're not from the US. So just a little bit context how the US government works. So the US government has 3 main branches. First is the executive, like of course led by president and federal agencies. And then there's the legislative, that's Congress. And then we have the court, which interpret the law. So Congress is divided into 2 chambers. They have the House of Representatives, which is from 435 members. It's usually very partisan and fast-moving. And then we also have the Senate. It's made of 100 members, 2 per state, serving 6-year terms. So it moves very slow. Usually needs like 60 votes to break a rule and then move things forward. When the government needs money to operate, Congress must pass funding bills. If those don't pass, non-essential government operations stop, and that's why we call a shutdown. And we know the shutdown started on 1st of October over some fight about the Obamacare, or or aka the Affordable Care Act. So Democrats want to extend healthcare funding, while Republicans wanted to cut funding and tie it to government workforce reduction. So Republicans, we know they have been so opposed of the Obamacare, like actually from day one. And in 2025, their arguments have so intensified. And what we notice is that the US is so polarized right now, but that isn't without any reasoning why Republicans are so against this Obamacare. So what they claim is that the Obamacare, all it does is just it enriches insurance companies at taxpayers' expense. So they argue over $100 billion in annual subsidies don't go to families, they actually just go to insurance companies. And Donald Trump called that insurance company like money-sucking corporations benefiting from a bailout. And second point that they have is that the Obamacare drives up costs and reduced choices. Like despite promises to lower costs, premiums for people without subsidies have doubled since 2013, and deductibles are often $5,000 or more. Republicans blame government mandates for forcing one-size-fits-all plan, limiting cheaper choices out there. So US is very polarized right now. Basically, like nothing can, basically can't get anything done. So negotiations froze for weeks until the Senate stepped in. By passing this bipartisan deal, the Senate is saying, okay, guys, let's just reopen the government first and argue about the details later, because this is causing the US a lot of money. Because like if we look at the impact of this shutdown, the longer the shutdown lasts, the worse the worsen the impact on the US market. So roughly 800,000 federal workers haven't been paid in over a month. Like I'm sure you've seen news that the airports are in such a mess right now. We're seeing the ripple effects everywhere. So in terms of airports, there are long security lines, and then there are delayed flights and canceled flights. And then we have the food stamp. So food stamp program, that is like the SNAP program. It has been delayed for 38 million Americans. And national parks are shut down. I mean, national parks is not like a key issue here. But if we also look at the local businesses, especially around DC, so Washington, DC, restaurants are empty, and contractors who rely on government projects are out of work. What we have seen during this shutdown, this like prolonged shutdown, the longest one in US history, is that these workers have turned to food banks, or maybe they are working 2 or 3 jobs at the same time. They are driving Uber just to survive. There's been even a rise in mental health issues among affected families. I mean, of course, like if they are living paycheck to paycheck, and they are under so much financial distress, of course, it's going to affect that mentally. So, according to the White House Council of Economic Advisors, the shutdown costs about 15 billion in GDP every single week. Meanwhile, the US government still collects taxes, but it's not spending. So that money actually piles up in the treasury account instead of flowing into the economy. So even the government is technically saving money, the lack of spending actually drains liquidity and slows everything down. Think of it like a business that collects payments but stops paying its employees and suppliers. So the whole economy actually is stalling. So this is the effect of the shutdown. And because of this, Donald Trump is losing a lot of his supporters. So there are polls showing that most Americans are really fed up by this. Donald Trump's approval rating dropped around 4 points since just October alone. Right now, sitting around 40%. So about 45% of voters are putting the blame on Donald Trump, and then another 30% would blame the Democrats. Democrats are using this moment to frame themselves as the defenders of healthcare and working families. And I would say because of this, it's not looking good for the 2026 midterm for the Republican. But let's come back to the TGA, so the January Treasury General Account, because as I mentioned, they've been stocking so much money. Like basically, the government's checking account has surged past $1 trillion because tax money keeps coming in, but they're not spending, and that pulls liquidity out of the banking system, draining around $700 billion from reserves. And then the repo market, like if you guys not from the TradFi background, repo market is where banks lend money to each other overnight, has started to tighten with rates inching up. Is a classic sign of cash scarcity. So less liquidity usually means high volatility and weaker risk assets. So that might be a partial reason why we're seeing a Bitcoin crash, like Bitcoin is not moving up. And other effect that we're seeing is, of course, like the Solana ETF that we have been longing for because us crypto folks, right? So the SEC, we know the chair, Paul Atkins, he's very pro-crypto, very like crypto-friendly guy, but he had to pause the ETF approvals during the shutdown. So we know the Solana ETFs being applied by Fennec or 21 shares, and then there are like a bunch of like a dozen more crypto-related filings. So the US has stopped because this is not like essential stuff. But one thing we noticed is that Hong Kong approves that first. Like Hong Kong has the world's first Solana spot ETF. We even front run the US. So that's pretty good. Like what we are eyeing right now is just like hoping that the shutdown to end. So Poly Market is saying it will come to an end on 14th of November. And usually Poly Market is the most accurate because like you can't trust the government data. And people are saying it will come to an end. Basically, it's in 3 days. So let's see how it goes. If it happens, I do expect there's some relief rally for Bitcoin, some breathing room for Bitcoin, and perhaps, I don't know, you could finally get that spot Solana ETF. All right, so that's for the government shutdown. Let's also hop onto Coinbase because Coinbase is doing one thing very surprising because like, I don't know, like let me know in a live chat if you guys are from the ICO era, but like Coinbase launches token sales platform, kind of bringing ICO back. So I kind of want to offer my own perspectives here. If you guys don't know context, just half a day ago, Coinbase officially announced a brand new platform that lets retail investors buy new digital tokens through compliant public sales. So this is a massive move because until now, Coinbase is mostly focused on spot trading, on custody, and on staking. Now they are stepping into the token launch business. So something we haven't seen ever since the ICO mania in 2017. So the debut project, very interestingly, like let me know if you guys are a big fan of Monad. So Monad token sale, a layer 1 blockchain, is so hyped right now, and people are saying it's a serious Solana competitor. The token sale, so for Monad, is actually going to open. So here's the details. Let's put on the tweet. So the token sale for Monad is going to start on 17th of November, which means next week, and they're going to run through till 22nd of November. It's going to be available in over 80 countries, including the US, of course. This is the first regulated public token sale open to American retail investors in years. It has been hosted by a publicly listed company, aka Coinbase, so COIN, that's the ticker symbol, because I've been shilling that ever since 2023. All right, so as for Monad, let's also get to the details of the token sale. So here's the breakdown. 7.5% of the monad, so MON token, the total supply, which is about 300 million tokens, will be sold at 2.5 cents each. If fully subscribed, that's $188 million raised, giving Monad an implied $2.5 billion valuation. Of course, there's a lockup and vesting period, so over 50% of supply is locked at launch. There's a gradual unlock, well, of course, that will prevent dumping, so that's the vesting period. But this is not the fast come, fast serve. They're not running that approach. Investors submit purchase requests and Coinbase algorithm allocates tokens based on the demand. That means no gas wars. I love that because we know how that would go, because no gas wars, no bots, and less whale manipulation. If you guys want to participate, of course, you need to have a verified account on Coinbase, so you need to complete the KYC and AML check. And the timing wise for Monad, I would say it's perfect because the sale happens in just a week before Monad's mainnet launch, further adding to the hype of Monad, because the hype of this project, it has been around for years actually, for a very, very long time. Coinbase says they will host about like 1 token sale per month, focusing on high quality, audited, and utility driven projects like Monad. This fits into the broader strategy around the RWA integration, which is a key part of the long-term roadmap as a regulated US exchange. And of course, the market absolutely loved that. Coinbase stock jumped a little bit. So on the 24 hours, so on the day of this news broke, it jumped like 4%. It's actually adding billions into the market cap. People love the idea of ICOs, but like I kind of want to offer some, because I do see some confusion. This is not technically an ICO, because like okay, ICOs back in 2017 or 2018, it was like unregulated fundraising event where projects sold tokens directly to the public on their own websites. So they were really chaotic. And a lot of people lose money from that because if you think about that, like anyone could just create their own website and ask for some money from the general public that usually come with a lot of scams. And a lot of people lose money from that because what we've seen in ICO during the ICO period, the mania, is that people would just like present some idea without any execution. Like it's just like a blueprint idea, and then people would raise funds and then give them millions of dollars to try to go ahead, take my money and build your idea. So that's the mania back in 2017. And of course, we know what happened. The market crash. So Coinbase model is a little bit like IEO, I would say. So an initial exchange offering. Here's how it works. So the project partners with Coinbase to host a sale on the exchange. That means we've seen Monad, right? So the token's going to be available on Coinbase. Users buy tokens directly through the Coinbase accounts using fiat or crypto. Coinbase systems then allocate tokens fairly using an algorithm if the sale is oversubscribed. So it's a much safer, cleaner, and more fully compliant with the US laws. No shady websites, no gas wars, no anonymous teams. So I'm seeing a lot of green flags here, a lot of benefits. So Coinbase would vet every project. Tokens would get listed on Coinbase immediately after sale. There's like investor protections like the anti-flipping rules just to stop the pump and dumps. But there's still risk involved because like nothing is guaranteed here. Like, okay, having a token launched on Coinbase, that is like the dream of every crypto project out there. But the token could still drop, especially during the launch day, like TGE, it could get really, really volatile. So you could still lose money from that. And Coinbase is likely going to take a cut, like a huge cut maybe 1 to 5% for Coinbase. And Coinbase, again, is not available in just every country in the world. I do see some similarity, like Coinbase is trying to compete with Binance Launchpad. Because like Binance Launchpad actually started back in 2019 and hosted big projects like Axie Infinity and Polygon. So there are similarities, like both are exchange-hosted token sales. They both give early access to vetted projects and operate on a roughly monthly schedule. But the difference is that Coinbase focused on regulatory compliance, like US users included, but Binance is not. So Coinbase is being the good child, want to be the regulated Binance for the West and filling the gap that Binance kind of left because Binance cannot touch the US market. But the bigger picture here, so this move ties directly into the Clarity Act. Because if you guys are not following, so Clarity Act is the digital asset market clarity in 2025. This bill actually focused to clarify crypto regulation. So there are two entities, SEC and CFTC. So this Clarity Act is basically telling these two entities that, okay, this, for example, CFTC would handle digital commodities like Bitcoin and Ethereum, while SEC will handle other stuff, maybe handle like true security tokens. And the move from Coinbase, it explains everything we need to know. They likely wouldn't launch such a major product unless they were confident that the regulatory environment is turning pro-crypto. In other words, this launch is not just business, it's political momentum in action. So this is bigger than just like Monad token. I'm sure a lot of like Degen here are gonna participate. But like crypto investors are really excited because this could revive the entire token launch ecosystem. So the ICO mania, maybe not as crazy as before because there are so much scams. Like I do see bullish reasons for this because projects can now kind of raise funds without VCs. They are, because Coinbase is kind of bringing ICO back. And I'm a big fan of ICOs, but just because it got so frothy and eventually turns into a bubble. But ultimately, there were a lot of like good innovations, like good products, good ideas back in the ICO mania. But it's just like all these bad actors, and the bubble eventually popped. So with ICO kind of coming back, there is like some wiggle room, like projects don't have to go to VC and beg for money because like VC kind of like take the blame from the market crash as well. They entered the market really early. So especially back in 2021, they are sitting on at least 100x return. That's why people don't like VC. So here it's kind of giving some wiggle room, maybe some opportunities, kind of open doors for future projects there are different ways to raise funds basically, but there's still risk involved because this is new tokens, very volatile, very speculative, and lockups. Like if you guys participate, like there are lockup periods and fasting periods. So that's something to consider as well. But as for Coinbase, as a company, this is like, I would say it's a very strategic masterstroke for Coinbase because more than half of Coinbase revenue comes from trading fees, which rise and fall with market cycles. So by adding token sales, Coinbase is diversifying its income stream, earning from listing fees, from token sale commissions, and post-launch trading. And analysts is expecting like there will be a boost of revenue by maybe 5% or 10%, with projects like Monad alone potentially adding like $100 million in trading volume. So Coinbase also, we know Coinbase was added to the S&P 500. They replaced Discover Financial. that attracted about like $5 billion in passive incomes, because we know a lot of people would just like buy S&P, and what they do is that they are passively, indirectly investing into the Coinbase stock. All right, so this is the key takeaway. Like I'm liking what I see, and Coinbase again. I've been a long-term holder since 2023. So let me know in the live chat if any of you guys hold Coinbase. I'm really a big fan of Coinbase right now. So I really wish to see this whole thing turns out to be very successful, because it draws more institutional money to maybe new crypto projects. Today we have Monad, and maybe in the future, we have other promising new innovations in the crypto space. All right, so that's pretty much all I want to cover in today's content. Just last bit of like call to action. Make sure to follow us on Twitter. So my Twitter handle is jamjamcrypto_IO. Make sure to follow Roxham TV as well, because we have regular updates and very valuable content you wouldn't want to miss. As I mentioned, my show is from Monday to Friday, 4 a.m. Eastern Time, live. Like if you guys cannot watch that live, make sure to catch the replay on both YouTube, so perhaps my YouTube channel, Jamjam Crypto, or Roxham TV YouTube channel as well. So thank you so much, guys, for watching, and I'll see you guys in tomorrow's show.